Good early morning to you. It's about 5 a.m. where I'm at. East Coast of Canada. Today's our 15th reading from Luther's Small Catechism with Explanation, and as usual in the description, we're going to have Luther's Catechism as well as a link to the explanation, as that's where we're at right now. Today we're going to finish off the 10 Commandments, the 8th to the 10th. Then I'm going to save till tomorrow, Lord willing, the summation of the commandments. Gets into the three uses of the law and gospel, so there's a lot of meat there in that small section. We'll save that for tomorrow. Then we're moving into the Apostles' Creed, or as Luther like to call it, the Creed. The 8th commandment, God's gift of a good reputation. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not tell lies about our neighbor, betray him, slander him, or hurt his reputation, but defend him, speak well of him, and explain everything in the kindest way. What does God forbid in the 8th commandment? A. God forbids us to tell lies about our neighbor in a court of law or elsewhere, that is, to lie about him, lie to, or withhold the truth from our neighbor. Proverbs 19 verse 5. A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who breathes out lies will not escape. Ephesians 4:25. Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Bible narratives. False witnesses testified against Jesus, Matthew 26:59 and 61. False witnesses testified against Naboth, 1 Kings 21:13. Gehazi lied to Elijah and then lied to him. 2 Kings 5:21 through 25. God forbids us to betray our neighbor, that is, to reveal our neighbor's secrets. Proverbs 11:13. Whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in spirit keeps things covered. Bible narratives. Doeg betrayed it's early in the morning. Amalek. 1 Samuel 21, 6 through 19. Judas betrayed Jesus, Matthew 26, 14 through 16. C. God forbids us to slander our neighbor or hurt our neighbor's reputation, Matthew 18, 15. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone, Luke 6:37. Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. James 4:11. Do not speak evil against one another, brothers. Bible narrative. Absalom slandered his father, 2 Samuel 15, 1 through 6. What does God require of us in the 8th commandment? A. We should defend our neighbor, that is, we should speak up for and protect our neighbor from false accusations. Proverbs 31:8 and 9. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and the needy. B. We should speak well of our neighbor, that is, we should praise our neighbor's good actions and qualities. Bible narrative. Jonathan spoke well of David, 1 Samuel, well of David, 1 Samuel 19:4. The people of Capernaum spoke well of the centurion, Luke 7:4 and 5. Jesus spoke well of the woman who anointed him, Mark 14:3 through 9. C. We should put the best meaning on everything, that is, we should explain our neighbor's actions in the best possible way. 1 Corinthians 13 verse 9. Love bears all things, believe all things, hope all things, endures all things. 1 Peter 4:8. Love covers a multitude of sins. The 9th commandment, God's gift of contentment. You shall not cover your neighbor's house. What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not scheme to get our neighbor's inheritance or house, or get in a way which only appears right, but help and be a service to him in keeping it. What is coveting? Coveting is having a sinful desire for anyone or anything that belongs to our neighbor. Romans 7:8. Sin produced in man produced in me all manners of covetousness. Matthew 15:19. Out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, and slander. What coveting does God forbid in the ninth commandment? God forbids every sinful desire to get our neighbor's possessions openly or by trickery. Micah 2:1 and 2. Woe to those who devise wickedness. They covet fields and seize them, and houses and take them away, and oppress a man in his house, a man in his inheritance. 1 Timothy 6-8. If we have food and clothing, with these we shall be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. Bible narrative. Ahab coveted Naboth's vineyard and got it in a way that only seemed right. 1 Kings 21:1-16. What does God require of us in the ninth commandment? We should be content with what God has given us and assist our neighbor in keeping what God has given that person. Philippians 4:11. Not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned that whatever situation I am in, to be content. 1 Timothy 6:6. There is a great gain in godliness with contentment. Hebrews 13:5. Keep your life free from the love of money, and be content with all you have. For he said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Bible narrative. Paul overcame coveting. Acts 20:32-35. The 10th commandment. God's gift of contentment. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. What does this mean? We shall fear and love God so that we do not entice or force away our neighbor's wife, workers, or animals, or turn them against him, but urge them to stay and do their duty. What coveting does God forbid in the 10th commandment? God forbids every sinful desire to take from our neighbor and our person's spouse or workers. Luke 12:15. He said to them, take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. Colossians 3:5. Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you, sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Bible narratives. David coveted Uriah's wife and took her. 2 Samuel 11:2-4. Absalom estranged the hearts of the people from David. 2 Samuel 15:1-6. What does God require of us in the 10th commandment? We should be content with the helpers God has given us. Encourage our neighbors, helpers, to be faithful to our neighbor. Philippians 2:4. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Bible narratives. Paul returned a runaway slave to his master, Philemon. What does God particularly need a drink of water? What does God particularly impress upon us in the last two commandments? In God's sight, evil desire, coveting, is indeed sin and deserves condemnation. Genesis 3:6. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took from it and ate. James 1:14-15. Each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desires. Then desire, when it is conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. God wants us to love him and to have holy desires. Psalm 37:4. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Psalm 119:35-36. Lead me in the path of your commandments, for I delight in it. Incline my heart to your testimonies, and not to selfish gain. Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers, whatever so is true, whatever so is honorable, whatever so is just, whatever is public, pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Okay, tomorrow, Lord willing, we're going to read the close in the summation of the commandments, where there is some meat, the three uses of the law and gospel. Then we're going to move on to the explanation of the Apostles' Creed. Right now, we're closing the explanation of the Ten Commandments. I hope the Lord's with you today, and you have a blessed day. Thanks for tuning in.